So, Mary, we just learned this afternoon that the person of interest in this case was found eating at a McDonald's. First of all, what do you make of the circumstances in which he was found?
Well, there are a couple of things, but one of the most interesting to me is that this person of interest had attended college, graduate school, had a job, interacted with a lot of people. So he had a lot of contacts with people that one would think over the years would be familiar with his ideations, would be familiar with how he looked, would be familiar with his conversations, and yet it really took a stranger at a McDonald's in a kind of an obscure location to contact the police. So it certainly begs the question, why didn't these other people who have known him for years, why did they not call in?
Or is that something maybe that the detectives were keeping close to the vest? Because, like you said, it does seem odd that there were so many connections to him, whether it's his fraternity, high school, and those were really clear images. Why did it take so long for an identity to be revealed in this case?
That will eventually come out, I'm certain. And I think with other cases that I've worked over the years, what people sometimes do is convince themselves, oh, that can't be my fraternity brother. That can't be the person I sat next to at school because they were so nice. And the same is really true if you go back to the Unabomber case. The Unabomber was really turned in by his brother, but he attended Yale University. He went to school. He had been around other people. So over the years, people knew him, knew what he wrote about, knew his ideation, and nobody turned him in. And then it wasn't until his brother read his writings that that he was actually turned in. So we've seen this happen before, and I think eventually it'll come out why other people did not feel comfortable calling in.
And is that what it boils down to? The psychology of people not wanting to mistakenly identify someone to get them in trouble?
I think that's a part of it that people think, well, I could be wrong. Maybe it's not him. I remember him as being, again, just this nice, very outgoing, very smart person. And I don't want to ruin his life by calling him in. I think you will have a segment of people that thought that way if they looked at the picture and thought, geez, it kind of reminds me of him, but no, it just possibly couldn't be him. So I think that I've seen that so often in cases. We have ways that we normalize our friends and relatives and wouldn't dream about calling them in if we saw their picture posted by the police department.
Now we know that a number of items were covered, a mask, a manifesto, two-page, I guess, explanation potentially for why he was angry at healthcare systems in this country, and also a weapon that fit the description of the one that was used. A lot of folks may wonder, why wouldn't you ditch these items? It seemed like there was a lot of pre-planning leading into this shooting, but maybe not so much planning on the back end.
I think that is a very good assessment. And early on, to me, it was pretty clear that you had a person that had practiced but wasn't experienced. Experienced person, someone that would have committed an assassination and learned from their mistakes. Get rid of all the evidence. Don't carry the weapon on you. Do A, B, C, and D. But we didn't see that in this crime scene. We didn't see this in the post-defense behavior. Yes, he practiced. Yes, he wore a mask. Yes, he wore gloves. Yes, he got rid of his backpack. He did things to show that he thought things through, but he had never been through it himself until last week when he shot and killed the CEO. And I think that really makes a big difference in criminal behavior. If you don't know based on experience, not just practice, but based on experience, you're going to make mistakes, which is what he did. And he carried his supplies with him, which were probably important to him and immediately therefore available to the police. And I think that comes from a lack of experience.
It almost seems like he wanted to be caught. Is that
I've heard
possible?
that said. Well, it's funny because I hear that come up a lot in different cases. This person really wanted to be caught. And I really have not seen that. I see people that want to get credit for their criminal behavior. I see people that want to be recognized for their ideology, recognized for their beliefs and their philosophies. But to say, I really want to get caught because I want to spend the rest of my life in prison or a substantial part of the rest of my life in prison, I don't see that. So I think we're going to have to separate out what it was that he really wanted. If the manifesto and his ideation and his philosophies were really important, he would want credit for those. But to say I want to be arrested and go to prison for most of my rest of my life or most of it, I don't see that.
Where do you think the investigation is likely to go next? Obviously, there's still a lot more to learn.
There is so much more to learn. So they will have leads that are sent all over the United States. He has contacts in San Francisco, Hawaii. They'll interview people that he's worked with, that he's gone to school with. What they'll do is they'll want to go back and see, when did this ideation of his, when did it first surface? When did he first develop it? So it will be vast, and it will be historical. So we can expect to see many, many weeks of investigation.
Have you covered a case like this before?
I worked on the Unabomber case.
Okay, so that was the association that you were making there.
Yes, the association came from Unabomber, read the manifesto, and we made a decision that we needed to have eyes on that manifesto because that was the demand of the Unabomber. So we went to New York and requested that both the New York Times and the Washington Post print it in its entirety on their front pages per the instructions of the Unabomber. And that's in fact what led to his brother recognizing the writing and contacting authorities.
We also learned that a ghost gun was likely used in this crime. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, law enforcement has struggled to clamp down on this type of weapon that's really hard to trace.
Yeah, they're very hard to trace, but now that they know what it was, and now that they know how he was able to put it together, they'll be able to go back and look at the printer. They'll be able to go back and look at, did he buy supplies? So they'll be able to basically reconstruct the steps that he took to create it.
Based on what we know, do you think that there may be others who may face charges in this, that he may have had help?
Based on what we know, it doesn't seem as though he would have pulled anybody else in to his manifesto and his plans and his efforts. It doesn't seem likely that other people would have bought into it to begin with because they were so extreme. It's one thing to have beliefs about certain professions and certain industries in the United States, but once they include murdering somebody, you're going to lose a lot of people. So I think because of the extremity of his thoughts and his plans and his philosophies, I would think at this point it's not likely that he had a co-partner or co-partners.
Anything else that you can share with us on this?
I think you covered it. I think we'll know more certainly in the days to come.
And that will be curious to figure out and learn more about what he's been doing in the days-long search that has been going on to find him.
I think that will be so interesting. And the one question that I would have for him, among many, if I were interviewing him, I would be in there for hours talking to him. But the one question that I would have is, what precipitated your decision to take this to a criminal level? What made you decide that at this point, with your philosophy, albeit it may appear to be extreme, what caused you to decide this thinking that I have, this philosophy I subscribe to, I need to now take it to the next level, and that's homicide?
That's the one question you would start with.
I don't know that I would start with it. I certainly would allow him to explain to me what his thinking is and his manifesto, because I do think that that's something that he'd want to talk about. And I do think he does not want it to be misunderstood. I think that's very important to him. So I know what NYPD interviewers are doing. They're letting him talk about that. and they're giving him credit for the thinking that went into his manifesto. They're not shutting that down because that's important. But at some point, you still need to know, why did you take it to the next level? What was it that caused you to do that?